All right, here we go. And it's after 3, so we're doing tutoring today. But I'm going to take a moment and kind of go over some stuff that we've been over before. We did 3.4 part 1 this morning, and not a lot of people made it, and it may not have been my best explanation ever. So we're going to call this 3.4 part 2. So this morning I was doing hurriedly this stuff. We had a lot going on, and some days that happens. With that, we got through it, and it took about 6 minutes. Now let's take our time and go over things. So we're going to start here with rewrite as a decimal. And on that, I'm going to remember that percent means per of cent 100. With that in mind, I'm going to take and write 20 point, and it'll be 0.0. I don't need to add the 0, but it'll be 20. Now, when I move the decimal, I'm going to move this decimal to the left, because what I'm writing here is 20 out of 100. So this would be 0.20. The same goes here. I've got 46%. I'm going to write 46 point. I can do 0.0. I don't have to. But I'm going to move that 2 places. And when I do, I get 0.46. Now here's where we start into things that people sometimes struggle with. And this is why I like to use that decimal. So here we have 7.4%. So we've got 7.4, right? Now I'm going to move this over 1, 2. I need to put a 0 there. That's a mistake a lot of people make, because there's a huge difference between 7.4% and 74%. So I have to pay attention. Each column matters. So this is 0.074. Same thing goes here. We have 0.3. Now on that, this is 0.3%. This is less than a whole percent. That's 0.3%. So it might throw me off a little bit, but I'm going to move that over 1, 2, and get 0.003. Here's 127%. Great chance to look at anything greater than 100%. And so we're going to write 127 and put our point. That's going to move over 1, 2 places, and we've got 1.27. This is why that math works when I multiply by these decimals to get the percent, because a percent is a decimal is a fraction is a percent. Isn't that crazy? Makes me kind of happy when I think about it. Now I'm going to do the same thing in reverse. I'm going to take this and move it over 2 places. And by doing so, that's going to be 74. And because I moved that decimal willy-nilly, I need to make sure I say, hey, you know what? That's out of 100. See, we'll do this weird slash. There's 2 zeros and a weird slash. Same thing here. I'm going to take and move that over 1, 2. When I do, I get 90%. This one moves 1, 2. And I get 2.54%. So when I'm moving these, I'm just moving according to the decimals, and I'm making it a point to write the sign. By putting that sign, I'm not really changing anything. So the same goes here. I'm going to move 1, 2, and we get 135%. Same thing here, 1, 2, and we're going to get 5%. Sounds pretty easy if you ask. But let's have a look here. Here we have rewrite these as a percent. And a lot of people struggle with this. How do I do that? Well, there's a few ways that I can do this. I can do it in terms of doing the actual division. If I do the division right here, it will automatically give me a decimal that I can convert. Or I can think about it in terms of what times this. So something times this number. So some number is equal to 100. If I do that, I can figure out, well, 2 times that number, or excuse me, that number, the same amount times the top, will get me to my percentage. So here, 2 times 50 is 100. 2 times 47 would be 100 minus 6. And so that would be 94, or 94%. Another way of doing it is to do the division. So we have 3 inside the house divided by 4. 4 will go into 3 0 times, put a decimal. And when I do, I can add a 0. 4 will go into 32. Let's see here. 4 times 7 is 28. 7 times 4 is 28. Draw the line, change the sign. And when we do, we are now going to have 3 to a 2, 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring down the 0. 4 will go into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Draw the line, change the sign, remainder 0. Now I've got it in decimal form. And so I may feel like I'm done. And on the GED, this is one of those tricks people fall for. Realize I need to say, okay, what does it want it in? It wants a percent. So I need to move that over 2 places and change a symbol. So I get 75%. Now, some of these I can see what they are. Like this one here, I can see that, oh, well, just multiply top and bottom by 10, and I've got 70%. Here, half is the same as 5/10, or 50%. Here, I may not see it so well. So we can always do our division. 1 divided by 6. 6 will go into 1 0 times. Put our dot here. 6 will go into 10 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. Draw that line, change the sign. 10 minus 6 is 4. Bring down the 0. 6 will go into 46 times. 6 times 6 is 36. Draw the line, change the sign. And now we're going to end up with 4 to 3, 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. Bring down the 0. Starting to see a pattern here. And that's just going to be bar, because it'll go on forever if I keep doing that division. So now I need to write this as a percentage. And I'm going to go 16.6%. It said round to the nearest tenth, so maybe I should keep going. And then round to the nearest tenths of a percent, that would become 7. Pay attention to the directions. If you do, you'll have a lot easier time. All right, write as a reduced fraction. So now we can write this one as 0.25, so that's tenths, hundredths, so 25 over 100. I could see that I can divide both by 25. And that's going to give me 1 over 4. Here we have 3/10. I don't have to do anything else. 3 is prime. What about this one? This is 5 over 100. Well, this is the same thing as 5 over 2 times 2 times 5 times 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So now I end up with 1 over 2 times 2 is 4 times 5 is 2. So I can write them over that amount of 10 and then reduce. And I can use that fundamental theorem of arithmetic to break them down into their own unique set of primes. This one is tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we would say 25 over 1,000. And on that, let's see here. If I took that down, I could say 5 times 5 over 2 times 5 times 2 times 5 times 2 times 5. That one has a partner. That one has a partner. And so I get 1 over 2 times 2 times 2. So 4 times 8 times 5 is 4. Next comes having the ability to use the is over of, as I've explained it. Now on this, I could multiply 60 times 0.15, and I will get there. And if you see it that way, great, go for it. But I can also use the is over of. So let's have a look here. What is 15% of 60? So we don't know our is. 15 over 100. We get 100 times x is 100 x's. Must have been a rough year. And then 60 times 15. Now let's have a look here. 15 times 60. Put a 0. 6 times 5 is 30. So put a 0 and a 3. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 3 is 9. And so now we're going to say, okay, 900. And now we're going to say, all right, divide both sides by 100. X is equal to 9. So 9 is 15% of 60. See, either way I do it, I'm going to get to the right answer. It does not matter. Here I'm going to say 0.40 times 32. And with that, I get, well, here, put a 0. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. And we're going to move that over 2 decimal places. 1, 2. Oh, it wants to know, yeah, the desired percent. I misread that. So here we have 12.8. That's 40%, 32. What about 5% of 56? I'm going to show you a neat trick. When you see them in terms like this one's 40, what I can do is I can take and say, okay, what is 10%? Well, that's if I move that over 1, right? That would be 3.2. 10 times 4 would get me to 40. So 3.2 times 4 will get me the same place for the answer. Here, if I multiply by 1/2 of 10%. So if I cut 5.6 in half, I'll get my answer. Now, for anyone not seeing it, that's okay. That's why we have is over of. We also have 0.05 times 56. So let's do that particle. So 0.05 times 5 times 6 is 30. So put a 0 and a 3. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 plus 3 is 28. This goes over 2 decimal places, and we get 2.8. Funny thing, 2.8 times 2 is going to get me 6. 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1, back to 5.6. See, these are all interrelated. If you can't see it at first, that's okay. Keep playing with it. Keep working with it. But remember, a fraction is a decimal is a percent. If you do that, you'll be much, much happier. The next question, you want to leave a 20% tip on a bill of $27.56. Well, if that were me, I'd just take, and being me, I always round up. So this won't be the exact answer, but I'd say, okay, that's 28 bucks. Now, 10% of that, I'm just going to move that over, right? So I've got 2.8. But this is 20%, so it has to be times 2. And when I do, I'm going to get 5.6 or $5.60 would be a 20% tip, which is decent. No complaints. So that's 3.4 part 2, just a quick review. Thanks so much for tuning in.